Time to play the game!
Good evening, Raw Dealers. This is Azarith Strife back with another deck video. This time, I am bringing another deck that I really enjoy. I'm bringing the game. This is a hand manipulation, hand destruction deck, and then just tries to beat you with hammers. Anybody that hasn't played much Raw Deal or much of Classic who isn't familiar with the game, he's a 7/5, so really good stats for hand size superstar value. At the start of your turn, before your draw segment, you get to look at the top 3 cards in your arsenal and put them back in any order. So he's really getting to see a lot of his deck and then decide what cards he wants to pick, and that's actually a really strong ability in a game like this where you're blind drawing, top decking every turn. He also gets to pack Triple H cards, but doesn't count as Triple H. And there's another card that he got in Virtual that will actually alter his ability a little bit, make it even better. So I went with the game specifically for this kind of deck because of some of Triple H's cards that really lead to hand destruction, especially his feud. But then we were going to go into, for the backstage area cards, he got a lot. So we have Ring General Throwback. This actually alters our packing restriction, or alters our packing ability. So we get to pack 2 additional Prematch and Midmatch, and our Sledgehammer shots and Beating That You'll Never Forget are not heal, which is important because if you are looking at this video, you can tell we are a face deck. When you're the game and you use your ability, you could put up to 3 cards on top of your arsenal on the bottom of your arsenal. So it basically lets you look at the top 3, put them back on the top of your arsenal in any order, and then put any number of them to the bottom. So you can really just bottom deck cards that you don't want to see, draw the ones that you want. Really strong to change up his ability for that way. And then during your turn, you can play Facebuster as a grapple. This is also important because Facebuster is a 0 for 10 crappy reversal that doesn't really do anything. So just being able to throw it as a grapple is not terrible. On Your Knees Dog. On Your Knees Dog, not D-A-G-G. When packing this card, your King of Kings is not fan favorite. Another important thing because, as you can tell, we're a cheater deck. Your first non-hybrid, non-raw Triple H specific actions played each turn are Fortitude 0 and Chain. So Triple H has a lot of superstar specific actions, and not many of them are raw, and not many of them are hybrid. So we get to just play them at Fortitude 0 once per turn, and their Chain. So we're making the opponent decide if they want to discard to reverse our actions. And then it has another great ability of, during your turn, you can discard 2 cards to shuffle up to 2 Triple H specific actions from your ringside into your arsenal. So if they are reversing those actions, or you've taken them in damage, you can get them right back into your deck. Respect the Authority. So it's one that can't be packed by DX or 2-man Power Trip. During your first draw segment of the game, draw up to 2 additional cards, and your opponent puts a random card from his hand on the bottom of his arsenal. More hand destruction. That's the key reason that we're playing this one. And then the only line of text on this card that's important for this deck in specifically is backed by Stephanie McMahon cards are superstar specific, and you replace the 3 with 6 in their text. And I'll get into why that's important and why we're running backed by Stephanie McMahon. Then we have DX Crotch Chop. Triple H has a ton of superstar specific cards. So we get to just remove up to 5 of them and shuffle double that many from our ringside into our arsenal. And then when our next card played this turn is a maneuver, it can't be reversed from Backlash. It's superstar specific backstage card, so why wouldn't you pack it? It allows us to do some more recursion. And we do have a lot of ways of getting cards. I don't want to say a lot. We have ways to get cards back from our remove from game pile. Then outside of the normal package of signing appearance, signature, autograph session, 5th and 10th, we are running Hometown Hero. We're not always going to reveal this one, but we do want to make sure that we get our venue in play most of the time. But if we go first, we're obviously not going to reveal this. And then we're going to reveal these, the +1 the +1 superstar value, the +1, the -1 superstar value, and the +1 hand size. Very, very superstar, opponent superstar dependent. So if we're tied, we have to reveal both the superstar values. We're opening ourselves up to shenanigans, but we need to make sure that we get the undisputed title. And then for +1 hand size, I will reveal this if their starting hand size, if their base starting hand size is less than 9, is when I will reveal this. And then if you end up having to reveal autograph or signing appearance and signature, you might as well just reveal everything, because that you've already opened yourself up to shenanigans. There's no reason to handcuff yourself any further. So going into our pre-match, we are NWO Allegianced. This is for a couple of reasons. One specifically is the -3 fortitude to run-ins. Triple H has a superstar specific run-in reversal that's really, really good. We get to play the NWO run-in. The NWO cards don't take up slots now in our pre-match or mid-match. This card's just solid. It's a solid allegiance to run for this type of deck with the package that I'm running, which is why I went with this. Our venue is Houston, Texas. So everybody draws 6 cards, and then your opponent randomly discards cards until they discard a non-hybrid reversal. And then you discard that many cards. And then all players are starting hand size -3. So we're going to make them draw a few cards, hopefully get rid of a couple of them, and then we get to have some extra cards in our hand, and they're not going to get to keep those cards that they drew. We're making sure of that. Our feud is the game is back and the game is here to stay. Triple H specific one, this throwback. I love that they did throwbacks for all of those old feuds and removed the can only be played if your opponent is this superstar, this superstar, or this superstar. And now they just made it that you can play it no matter who your superstar is, but now there's a cost. So the maximum number of your pre-match cards you may have in your ring is reduced by 1. Now that gets real touch and go as we're going through, because we don't free up our slots until we get to the first event. But our opponent's starting hand size is -3. So we are already giving them -6 to their hand size. That's huge. We're packing old school cage match. This is specifically for thrust knee lift to stop and stop our opponents from picking up steel chain shots, and I can't be reading this right, to refill their hand. We want to make sure we're keeping their hand as low as possible throughout most of the game. Our manager is managed by Eric Bischoff. We get +2 starting hand size. Our opponent gets -1. We're not running back by Eric Bischoff. This is the only reason that we're running this card. Is +2 hand size, -1 starting hand size to them. This could be old school manager, which is you get +1 pre-match and they get -1 hand size. So you could go either way with that. Then our first event, we're going to drop down the undisputed title, which is going to make our feud no longer take up a slot. So that's going to free up this slot right here. As you can tell, we were playing 5. Our NWO t-shirt didn't take up a slot. Now this isn't going to take up a slot either, so we're at 4 out of our 5. So now this is important. But now our superstar specific cards don't take up slots in our ring. Very, very important, because we're going to be playing a lot of them. The next pre-match that I'm generally going to play is I'm going to drop Old School Psychology. I want to get this on the table as fast as possible, because as my opponent is playing their pre-match cards, they're having to discard those cards that I let them draw with Houston. So I want to get this on the table as quickly as I can. And pre-match number 2, event number 2 is the fastest that I can get it into play. Then I'm going to go... now, you'll notice something. We have 5 slots. We're full. Uh-oh. What are we going to do? So, Premier WWF Superstar is Superstar specific, so it doesn't take up a slot in your ring, so you can play it even when you're full. And it gives you +3 pre-match. Just, there it is. We got +3 pre-match up, and we've opened up some slots, and it doesn't take up a slot, so yeah. Then we're going U.S. title. U.S. title throwback. We get +1 hand size. Our opponent gets -1. So let's count here real quick. We're at -3, -6, -7, -8. I feel like I'm missing one. Nope. Okay, so yeah, we're at -8. Okay, so you don't want to reveal this unless they are 7 or lower. I feel like I originally, with my heel version, had this at -8, and I don't remember how. So yeah. Game over, you damn right I'm over. We literally only run this because we need to have superstar specific cards in our ring for other cards in our deck. And this card has actually let me not only fix my hand, but this card has let me plan my turn 1, where I get to see their hand, and then I can kind of plan around what they have, unless they just completely get a brand new hand. But I can at least play around it. Cerebral Assassin. This might be one of his most powerful cards, but also the card that is least likely to come online for this deck. And it's not as impactful for most other for some superstar matchups. So if we have 4 or fewer cards in our hand, we blank our opponent's superstar ability. And then if it gets put into our ringside pile from our ring area, we get to drop to 4 cards. I have not actually figured out if I have a way of removing this myself. I should look into that. I feel like maybe I do, but we'll go on that journey together. Survey time. Who's here to see the NWO? This is effectively giving them -1 hand size, but at the end of the pre-match phase, we get to draw a card, heal a card from our ringside, make our opponent overturn 1, and discard 1 card. So it's basically just another free discard, more hand destruction. Hold on, it's not time to show. We are a 5 superstar. We want to make sure that we are shutting off our opponent's showtime. We want to go first. We want them to have no hand, and we want to go first. And then playing by the rules throwback. I said this in the Kevin Owens video. I think any face deck should be running this card. No ifs, ands, or buts. No show is a very common and popular card. And heel run-ins like managers, or heel reversals like manager becomes a 15, and your sloppy very sloppies become 10. It's too good of a card, and it doesn't take up a slot. So then going on to our mid-match. I'm going to end up saying this in every video. Regis Caesar Gasp, restricted use in this area. If you don't pack these cards in virtual, you're probably going to lose more often than you'll win. Just pack these cards. There's no reason not to. Road to Victory. This, just getting to be able to blank a mid-match card to take the turn back, or discard it as an action to draw a card. Anybody who's been watching my videos, you're going to see some very commonly reoccurring cards, and unfortunately I can't really help that. A lot of virtual for more like stable decks are going to run a lot of similar cards, just because like your reversal packages are going to be very similar. Really, in my opinion, the pre-match is where a lot of decks become different, and me and a couple of friends of mine that I play with, we have a firm belief of the game can be won in the pre-match phase. Games can be won and lost in pre-match. So we like to stress our pre-match phase, and we like to make them as unique as possible. Turning everything upside down, it's, in my opinion, it's just a better cow on ice. It has one less ability to play it as a reversal, but it has a really powerful action. Because if we turn over a couple of the cards in this deck, we can just completely lock an opponent out of doing a lot of stuff. Panic Grab is a really odd choice for me. I've been back and forth on this card, because I don't want to play from behind. If I'm playing from behind, I'm probably in a really bad spot. On the contrary, this card is really good if you have to play from behind, and you play it with a card like Rest Hold or Ankle Lock. Just making the maneuvers harder to reverse because they're chain, and then you just get to play them with these maneuvers to just try to snag some quick, easy fortitude. Same reason I'm running Flawless Transition. Just playing these with a couple of the chain maneuvers that I have just ends up being really good. Suicide Strike. I have had talks with some people about this card, and man, do people don't like this card. From what I understand, people think this card's bad. Me and my friend group think differently. We think this card is really good, especially specifically for me for this deck, because 10, 10 is a sweet spot. So if I can go 10 to 30, really good. Um, the downside, it's a strike multi that's a 10 for 20. It has RMS, so they can't reduce it, they can't blank it, they can't do anything to it. Um, if your opponent reverses it from hand or backlash deck, both players overturn 5. Okay, your opponent might not want to do that. When it's successfully played, you have to remove the top 10 cards of your arsenal from the game. That sucks. Luckily, Triple H does have a couple of ways of getting cards back from removed from game. We're kind of okay with that. We've kind of calculated that. But just going 10 to 30, most likely what's going to happen is your opponent's going to reverse this once from their hand and then allow it to be successful and spin the overturn. Because it doesn't have any stun. There's no reason for them not to. Other than not wanting to give you 30 fortitude. Then we're going into NWO Reinforcements Have Arrived. This is a run-in for us. This is another NWO card. We can only play it when we have an NWO card in our ring, which we do because we have the NWO t-shirt. We reverse any non-unique maneuver and drop the 2 cards. This will be 12 fortitude for us because it's a run-in and our NWO t-shirt reduces run-ins. King Interferes, 10 for 3, reverses any foreign object or maneuver 10 damage or greater. This will be a 7 for 3 reversal for us because it's a run-in. I'm running 2 Sex the Gods, the Freak the Frauds. I think this card is really good, especially in this deck. We said that we were playing the Suicide Strike and removing cards from our deck. Well, this lets us get some of those removed from game cards back. Also allows us to just completely mess up our opponent's hand. If they've got a really stacked hand, we can get rid of a bunch of their cards and make them draw blind into new ones. Or we see that their hand is crappy because we've been keeping their hand size really low and basically been forcing them to top deck the whole game. We just be like, okay, well, let's put the game away now. Reinforcements from the DX Army. This is a new card for me. It's not a new... I believe this card came out in I want to say 7? I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But this card's pretty solid for this deck because... less so for the effect when we actually play it of shuffling a card from ringside pile into our arsenal up to the number of maneuvers in our opponent's ring. We're hoping that they don't have any by the time we play this card. But we get to drop a card and put a card that's removed from game on the bottom of our arsenal. So we can get a card back from our removed from game. But whenever we use our ability, we draw up to 1 card. Well, we use our ability every turn at the start of our turn. So we get to look at the top 3, put any number of those to the bottom, and then draw 2. That's pretty good. And it's 0 fortitude because it's a Triple H card. It's a non-hybrid, non-raw Triple H card. That's great. A beating you'll never forget. This card gets played infrequently, but there are reasons why I would play it. Like physically play it, not run it in the deck. It has an ace of you can put it into your ringside pile to put a maneuver card from your ringside pile into your hand, and then you can discard 3 cards and put it back into your backlash deck. So it just can keep recurring and keep letting you pick up maneuvers that you need. Then the real finisher of the deck, the Sledgehammer Shot. People think I'm crazy. Every game that I've won with this deck, I have won with the Sledgehammer Shot. It's minus 10 fortitude, and doesn't have it can only be played after text. If we have game over, damn right I'm over. That's why we're running this card. So it's a 30 for 25 that can just be played, and it can't be reversed from your opponent's arsenal. Sponge decks get mad when you tell them they can't reverse from arsenal. And then you get to drop the 2 cards if the game's not over. The game will probably be over. So that's my backlash. Like I said, with Ring General, we get to pack 2 additional pre-match, 2 additional mid-match. So that's why you'll see 14 and 14. and why these two heel cards are in our deck, even though we are a face deck. So going into our reversal suite, we are going to go through some staples. Revolution of the Mind. I couldn't work the counter package, because if you're going to run counter throw, counter assault, and counter hold, or yeah, I think counter hold is the last one. You generally want to run some number of step asides, escape moves, and break the hold or reach for the ropes. I couldn't fit that in this deck, so I didn't. Once is enough, sloppy, very sloppy, and get the F out. Staples for a face deck, staple for virtual. I say it in every video that I have at least this card in. Virtual has so many multis in this game. This card is needed. Then we're running 2 Iron Will throwbacks. So as an action, we can discard it to shuffle 2 cards from Rings of Power into our arsenal. So it's only going to be 1 because of the old school cage match. We're kind of okay with that. But our opponent discards a card. And then on overturn, it reverses any submission. Just a good card. Running 2 volley this is because we want action reversals. 2 sidewalk slams because we want foreign object and unreversible reversals. 2 don't tries because we want ace reversals. Douchebag Divine Carlito Rod Deal Revolution, the virtual staple right here, the reversal staple package right here. We're a raw deck, so we're going to play Get Out of Here. This is going to be less impactful because we can't manipulate our opponent's remove from game, but we can remove a lot of our own cards from the game, so we can still get this up to a decent reversal. Then we're playing Adapt or Perish. So as an action, we don't get the evolution effect for this, but we get to search for an evolution logoed card, and if it's our next card played this turn, it can't be responded to. As a reversal, reverses any non-maneuver, and when you have this in your ring, your opponent doesn't get to draw for Gentleman's Establishment, which we're not playing, and the number of cards removed from the game for you on if you want to play, you gotta pay, is reduced to 0. So, really strong. Facebuster, throwback, 0 for 10, reverses any maneuver played after the card titled Irish Whip or any other setup. You drop the 2 cards. We're going to play this as a grapple most of the time, if we play it. Then we have, because I'm that damn good, 10 Fortitude, reverse any non-trademark finisher maneuver, and you get to drop to 3 cards. Just a great reversal. Triple H's reverse neckbreaker is a 6 for 6 strike reversal. You'll probably not often play it as a grapple, but yes, you could. But it's generally there as a 6 for 6 strike reversal. And then the reason I went NWO t-shirt. Ric Flair interferes. 4 for 4, reverse any maneuver, and it's a run-in. So it's a 1 for 4. My original version of this deck before I put Old School Cage Match in had no DQ match. So if you didn't want to go Old School Cage Match and you wanted to do that route, you could go no DQ match. This will give you Ric Flair at 0, King at 4, NWO arrives at 9. Can't really go wrong with that. I just decided for the deck, the way that I wanted to play the deck, I wanted Old School Cage Match. This card's so good. So now going into our actions. Give me a moment. We have the King of Kings. So if we remember, On Your Knees Dog made this not fan favorite, so that's great. Can only play it if you have 3 or more superstar specific cards on your ring. So that's why I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right off the bat, I've got 4. That's important. I want this online as quickly as I can have it. It's a 0 Fortitude if it's your first action played, because it's a Triple H non-hybrid, non-raw action. It's Chain as well. Shuffle 3 cards from your Rings of Power into your arsenal. And then for every copy of this card in your ring, your opponent can overturn 5 cards. If he doesn't, you get to shuffle 5 cards removed from the game into your arsenal. If you have 3 of these in your ring, and it happens the moment you play the first one. So the first one, you can get 5. The second one, you can get 10. The third one, you can get 15 cards back. Whew. That's a lot. I love this card. We're running two backed by Stephanie McMahon's. So we make our opponent overturn equal to their opponent's superstar value, and then we shuffle 3 up to 6 for respect the authority, down to 5 because of old school cage match, because old school cage match says printed superstar specific, I believe. Yes. But shuffle 5 and your opponent mills equal to his superstar value. That's really in here for another card later in the deck. Maintain hold throwback. We're running this just as a one-of because we're running Game Sleeper. That allows us to search for it. And we can play this with some of the other submission maneuvers that we have that are chain that do really low damage. So it lets us just really lock the game down. Brave H, movie card, 5 fortitude, can't be reversed when played by Triple H, Ric Flair, The Game, or Evolution. Your opponent has to discard 2 cards. Kind of goes with what we're trying to do. We want to make them discard their hand. And your next card played this turn is -10 fortitude, and his reversals to it are +10. I managed to end a game with my opponent at 4 fortitude or something like that. I played Brave H into Sledgehammer Shot, and they died. Because they couldn't reverse this at +10 fortitude on their reversals. I see the line in the sand. Your opponent has to discard equal to his superstar value. So we're okay with them having a decent superstar value because we're just going to punish them for it. And most of these cards are going to be Fortitude 0 and Chain. So that's really good. It's all about control. This one is not Fortitude 0, and for good reason. When it's in your ring, you can discard 3 cards to reverse any card, and end your opponent's turn. We can just lock our opponent out of the rest of the game if we can put them away fast enough. Because we will eventually run out of steam. Less so now that we have DX reinforcements, because we get to draw 2 cards a turn instead of 1. But yeah, we will eventually run them out of steam. Paid Laden Maid. We mill 3, we remove 3 cards in our opponent's ringside pile from the game, and we put up to 3 Backlash deck cards from our ringside pile into our Backlash deck, and draw up to 3 cards. Great card. I Am the Game. Can't be reversed by hybrid reversals. Draw 2 cards, your opponent discards 2 cards, and your maneuvers are +3 damage for the rest of the turn. We definitely have a, does this card say discard cards? We're probably going to run it. If you want to play, you gotta pay. So when this card's in your ring, before your draw segment, you can discard a card. And your opponent has 1 or more cards in his hand. That is they do have to have the ability to activate the card. You can discard a card, and then he removes the top 3 cards of his arsenal from the game. He can then discard a card and make you remove the top 3 cards of your arsenal from the game. And then you go back and forth until somebody decides to not do it. So when we have Adapt or Perish, we can discard a card, they have to remove the top 3 cards of their arsenal. If they want to do it back to us, we reduce the number to 0. That's pretty good. Especially when we can turning everything upside down into these 2 cards, and this one is just Fortitude 0. If it's our first Triple H action. We have Making the Game. This is a little on the fence for me, but I'm okay with it. I just don't like that it ends your turn. But we have to search for an action, a maneuver, and a reversal, and put them in our hand. So we end our turn, but we're probably getting Ric Flair Interferes or Douchebag to be able to just reverse whatever they play and end their turn anyway, and get the turn back. It's time to play the game. This has a couple of different effects depending on fortitude values. So if you have less fortitude, you shuffle up to 4 cards from your ringside pile. If you have equal fortitude, you get to put a card from their ring into their ringside pile. Any card you want. And then if you have greater fortitude, you look at your opponent's hand and discard, and choose a card and make them discard it. Card's great. Triple H has some incredibly powerful superstar specific actions. Then flip over the corner ring post. This says hybrid reversal. It'll probably never come up because it only reverses throw into the corner turnbuckle. But as an action, you shuffle this card and 1 card from your ringside pile in your arsenal, and then draw 2 cards and discard 1. Just great. Just a solid card. It's 0 Fortitude. No really reason not to run it. So that's our actions. As you can see, we're running a lot more actions in this deck than we were running in our other decks, but Triple H has some really, really strong ones and really great ones. We wanted to make sure we had those in here. On to our maneuvers. We're gonna start with the core reason I built the deck was bring the hammer down. I built the deck to be a hand destruction deck out of the pre-match to make your opponent have 0 cards in their hand, and I can just play bring the hammer down for 0. And my opponent shouldn't be able to reverse it, so I can get a quick 10 Fortitude. So the cool trick with this deck, with this card specifically, is when you play it, you get to search your deck for up to 10 superstar specific cards and put them in your ringside pile. And this card is -1 Fortitude for each card you put into the ringside pile this way. So, we're Cheater. Cheater got, and I should have put this up here with Bring the Hammer Down. Cheater in Virtual got a card called Blindside Takedown. When you search your arsenal for any reason, you can reveal this card from your arsenal and put it in your ringside pile. While it's in your ringside pile, your non-chain cheater cards are -3 Fortitude, and your opponent cannot remove this card from your ringside pile to any other location. So, we play Bring the Hammer Down. We are currently in the play part of the timing sequence, so we are now searching our deck. We're going to put Blindside Takedown into our ringside pile. So this is now at 7 Fortitudes. We just have to remove 7 superstar specific cards from our, or discard 7 superstar specific cards from our arsenal. 2 of them are going to be backed by Stephanie McMahon because they're superstar specific now. And then probably It's All About Control. And then some other combination of 4 other actions of your superstar specific cards. It could even be like Facebuster would be fine. Some combination of them, because you're going to be able to most likely get them back into your deck anyway. And you're going to get this down to 0 Fortitude. And then it is a strike multi on turn 1 that your opponent can't reach exceeds your grasp because it's superstar specific. That was the reason that I built this deck. Then, if you have 3 cards in your ring area titled Bring the Hammer Down, your opponent can't reverse your Sledgehammer Shot from their hand. I've seen some conversations go on about this card that decks that rely on this card aren't good, or it just doesn't work. I beg to differ. I've made it work, but I also don't rely on this as my only way to get Fortitude. It's just my fastest way. Specifically because I'm still running 0 Fortitude maneuvers. Quick Snap Body Slam because we're running Flawless Transition and we're chain. So we just have some other options to get some Fortitude. Atomic Driver at 2. 2 Quick Snap Body Slams, 2 Atomic Drivers. Just when successfully played, search your arsenal for a unique card. We're not playing Atomic Spinebuster, so the other part is irrelevant. Just a 13 for 12 Chain Grapple that searches for a unique card. We have a lot of unique cards. Grab. 0 for 1 Chain Submission that when it's successfully played, you get to search your arsenal for a non-unique card and reveal it to your opponent. So I went with this card because it does twofold. It's a chain maneuver, so your opponent is going to have a hard time reversing it with a very low hand size. It searches your deck, so you're going to search for Blindside Takedown, and you're going to be able to search for Bring the Hammer Down if you didn't see it in your opening hand. That's why that card got picked. Throwback Ankle Lock, 0 for 2, Chain Submission that when successfully played, your opponent discards a card. Just a very simple maneuver. And then Rest Hold. I went over Rest Hold with Kevin Owens. This can just get you out of a jam, either by getting rid of an important card out of their ring area, getting rid of some key Fortitude, blanking an important card. This card can just do a lot, and especially when you play it with like Panic Grab, you get some quick Fortitude off of the Panic Grab. Your opponent doesn't want to reverse the Rest Hold because it's 0 Fortitude. Also, Rest Hold, Ankle Lock, Grab, Maintain Hold. So you can Rest Hold, and it does 0 damage, and you have Maintain Hold on Rest Hold. So every turn, they just have to reverse the Rest Hold. and they're not going to reverse it on damage. So it's just they're top decking off of the rest hold. And same with grab. Grab is doing 1 damage, so it could eventually get reversed, but it's just keeping the maintain hold on one of these maneuvers is really powerful because they're low damage, so they're less likely to be reversed on overturn. Then finally, we're running Game Sleeper. It's -3 fortitude for every other maneuver type in our ring. So we have strike, grapple, submission. So we can get -9 down to 16. And then when it's successfully played, we get to search for maintain hold, and we can play maintain hold after this card. So 16 for 15 trademark. That seemed all right to me. It does have 2 stun, so we're okay with that. And yeah, this card just seemed pretty okay to play. So that is my game hand destruction deck. I know some people are not going to have fun playing against this deck because playing without a hand just kind of sucks. But if your play group is okay with that, or you want to take this for a spin on Octagon, please feel free to have some fun with it. Shoot me out any comments, any ideas that maybe you have. Like maybe there's some cards that you like that I didn't think of. Just reach out to me and yeah, we can talk about it. I really enjoy this deck and I think it's really good. So until next time, guys, have a good night.